Today's learning target is, I can use the law of sines to find a missing side or angle in any triangle. The law of sine is a set of equivalent fractions, comparing the sine of an angle to its opposite side. So if I took the sine of angle A and put it over the opposite side, it would be equivalent to the sine of angle B over its opposite side B, which would be equivalent to the sine of angle C over the side length opposite side length C. Let's go ahead and look at some application problems. I can use the law of sine when I have two given angles and a side length when I'm trying to find an unknown side length. Just be aware that if I do have an angle directly across from that angle, I should either have a side length that I'm trying to find or a side length that I know. When I set up my law of sine, I would use the sine of 29 degrees and I would put it over the opposite side, 11. Sine of 29 over 11. I would set it equal to the other equivalent fraction, the sine of 118 over x, which is right here. Now this right here is a proportion and I can use cross products to solve. So I would go ahead and multiply each diagonal and then set the products equal to each other. Then what I would have to do is to be able to solve for x. And when I solve for x, I would use the inverse of multiplication and I would divide both sides by the sine of 29 degrees. When I get my final answer, x is equal to the sine of 118 times 11 divided by the sine of 29. Now to make this appropriate for this problem, I would want to simplify that, and I would do that by putting that right into the calculator to get approximately 20.03 or 20 3/100 as my solution for x. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one, and this one we're going to be finding the angle. So if I was going to use law of sine to find an angle measurement, I would at least need to have two sides and an angle. Just remember, the side and the angle that I use in my law of sine have to be directly opposite of each other. When I set up my ratio here, I would do, first of all, the sine of 115 over its opposite side, 49. Then I would set it equal to the sine of x over 16. Now if I solve this, it's going to look a little different from before, but I'm still going to use cross products. Sine of 115 times 16, the sine of x times 49. And remember, cross products, you would set those two products equal to each other. Now I'm going to also solve for x, but instead I'm going to solve for the sine of x. So I'm going to divide both sides using the inverse of multiplication. I'm going to divide by 49. When I get down to this final answer, I would have the sine of x is equal to the sine of 115 times 16 divided by 49. Now this doesn't give me enough information yet, so what I would want to do is put this in my calculator to simplify, and I would end up getting a decimal equivalent. Now this decimal equivalent isn't the angle, but this is the ratio that I would use to find that angle. And anytime that I'm finding an angle using trig, I need to make sure that I use the inverse trig function. So I would put that decimal equivalence in using the inverse trig function for sine into my calculator, and I would get an approximate value of 17.21 degrees for my angle.